A very good morning to you and welcome to Citizen Extra. I'm Lily Muli. In the news this morning, why are CSs dabbling in politics? We'll be looking at the trend of politicians, or rather of cabinet secretaries politicking, and asking why State House is supporting this. State House spokesperson Manoa Esipisu came out to support this, arguing that the ministers were using these forums to explain government policies and account for their official duties. Also in the news, businesswoman Esther Pesaris will now be vying for Nairobi Women's Rep and an ODM ticket. We'll be talking to her on what informed her decision to jump ship and indeed what happened to her aspirations to be Nairobi governor. We're also looking at Deputy President William Ruto's 2022 presidential bid and asking whether it's too early to be talking matters 2022. All this is coming up on Citizen Extra. Let's take a look at our news diary. President Uhuru Kenyatta will this morning host Seychelles President Danny Faure at State House. Nairobi President Faure is in the country for a state visit and a 21-gun salute is scheduled in his honor. The two heads of state will thereafter hold a bilateral meeting followed by a state luncheon. That's coming up on Citizen Extra. Also in the news this morning, Nairobi Governor Evans Kidero and his Mombasa counterpart Hassan Joho are among unchallenged ODM aspirants who are receiving their party nomination certificates this morning. The ODM election board has already submitted its list of aspirants to the IEBC ahead of the party nominations that begin April the 7th. That's coming up on Citizen Extra. Also this morning, the Principal Secretary, Ministry of Interior and Coordination, Karanja Kibicho, will address issues affecting displaced populations before, during and after elections at a dialogue exchange forum. A number of IDPs as well as refugees from Somalia will be in attendance, and that's coming up on Citizen Extra. Also in the news, the African Independent Pentecostal Church of Africa will today address the media on progress made towards ending infighting occasioned by wrangles within its leadership. Archbishop Frederick Wangombe, accompanied by other bishops, is expected to give an update on the progress of church unity talks. That's also coming up on Citizen Extra. Also in the news, the United Nations office in Kenya will today hold the second commemoration of victims of the Garissa University College attack. In attendance will be survivors, representatives of the victims, religious and political leaders. The event will be used to illustrate the hope and change taking place at the institution following the massacre. That's coming up on Citizen Extra. Cabinet secretaries and politics. State House has come out to defend cabinet secretaries from accusations that they are engaging in political campaigns for President Uhuru Kenyatta. Spokesman Manoa Esipisu says the cabinet secretaries are just doing their job by outlining what the government has done and continues to do. But is this really the case? I'll be hosting in studio two cabinet secretaries. We'll be expecting Mwangi Kiunjuri, CS Ministry of Devolution and Planning, very shortly. But with me in studio is Eugene Wamalwa, CS Ministry of Water and Irrigation. Good morning, Eugene. Cabinet secretaries are public officers. You're supposed to be heading your respective ministries and not engaging in politics. Why are you participating in political rallies?
Morning, lady. I think, first of all, I want to clarify that Article 77 of our Constitution restricts to a very specific degree what can and cannot be done by public officers. And one provision is that you are not supposed to hold political office. As you are aware, before I was appointed to cabinet, I was the party leader of New Fort Kenya party. And upon being appointed as cabinet secretary, I did resign my position, and we had Governor Ken Lusaka take over the leadership of that party. In the Constitution, that is the specific restriction. But also, we do know that many have quoted the Public Officers Ethics Act that under Article 16 provides that a public officer should not be partisan. But when you look at the Ethics and Anti-Corruption and the Public Leadership and Integrity Act, it is very clear that indeed the CSs and CECs, meaning county ministers and national government ministers, are exempted from this provision. Why is this so? Because as a cabinet secretary, first of all, I must be able to implement the manifesto of the ruling party. I must be able to defend that manifesto. I must be able to speak about the policies that the government is putting in place to transform lives of Kenyans. But equally, I have a duty to the public to give them access to information under Article 35 on what the government is doing, what the government is planning to do, and how this will change their lives. So if in any case anyone misleads the public, it is my duty to also set that record straight.
But, okay, having said that, isn't Parliament the one that is mandated to summon you and, when necessary, to explain to the public the programs in your respective dockets?
Yes, we do that, and equally the public has the right to this information, and wherever we are, we're serving the public, and we are required to give members of the public this information. It is also part of the principles of public service under Article 232 to give the public accurate and timely information that touches their lives. So this is really what we're doing as cabinet secretaries. But I do admit that there is a thin line between policy and politics, because really it's policy that informs politics, and it's the politics that actually generates policies. So the two are inseparable to some extent, and that is why under Section 23 of the Leadership and Integrity Act, cabinet secretaries are exempted from the requirement of political impartiality, because you are a political appointee, you are holding an office that must be able to implement policies and fulfill pledges of the government in power, or the party in power at the time. Yes.
How then do you insulate the public service from politics when you use public rallies or campaign platforms to talk about your respective dockets? How do you insulate public service from politics?
The only issue should be that as a minister, you cannot discriminate, because it would be unconstitutional. Maybe on the basis of your political affiliation, for you to maybe discriminate against certain portion of Kenyans on the basis of them being from a different political party. That cannot be entertained. And I believe that even as we serve, we are able to serve all Kenyans, and we serve the entire country, including all the counties.
Let's move away from CS's campaigning or rather politicking and talk matters IEBC. Historically, IEBC has been having challenges with tendering, and I want to begin with NASA wanting to have a parallel tallying center. What's your take on that?
I believe the only institution that is mandated by law under Article 88 of our Constitution to conduct elections, to tally the results, and to announce those results is IEBC and no other institution. Only one person is actually mandated to announce the final results, and that person is Wanyonyi Chebukati, the new chairman of IEBC. It is therefore very worrying when we see leaders beginning to talk about setting up a national tallying center parallel to that of IEBC. And the first person to mention this was the former vice president, who is also a lawyer like myself. And I did mention this to him, that it would be setting a dangerous precedent. But what is even more worrying is what the former prime minister said yesterday, when he said they will actually, apart from setting up a parallel tallying center, they will actually be announcing results. So in a situation really where we have the IEBC actually transmitting results, announcing results, then you have a parallel national tallying center by the opposition announcing results different from the results announced by Chebukati, the chairman of IEBC. What will happen thereafter? You will have two sets of results, and you will have you would set the country on a coalition path. We cannot go down that road.
What about the argument that NASA is raising legitimate concerns because historically we do know that the IEBC has had challenges, case in point with the tendering process. Why the opposition to have a parallel tallying center based on these concerns from NASA?
I believe what caused the problems that we had in 2008 really was a crisis of confidence in our institutions. We did not go to the courts because we say these are, kangaroo courts. We didn't have faith in our judiciary. We did not accept the results of the ECK, then Kivuitu, because we did not have confidence in that institution. That led to post-election violence when we took matters to the street instead of taking matters to the institutions mandated by the law in any democratic society. This is where we ended up in 2008, and we can't afford to go down that road. Over time, we have had a new constitution. We have had new institutions in place. We have invested serious resources towards strengthening these institutions. Key amongst this is the judiciary, and the judicial reforms are some of the most celebrated in Africa. Also, the IEBC has been reformed. We believe the electoral reforms that have gone on, and including the change of leadership at IEBC, has brought results, and we want to ensure we don't erode the confidence that we have built over time in these institutions. So I want to urge that every time you find an individual or a party purporting to usurp the role of an institution mandated by the law, you are undermining that institution. We can't afford to do that now. And I believe the talk by the opposition is dangerous talk, and it might lead us to the path of 2008 where we do not trust our institutions and we say only our results as NASA are the true results. Do not believe what Chebukati and his people have said.
But
what
away
will
from
happen?
NASA,
the country will explode.
Right. Away from NASA, in other jurisdictions, we do know that institutions such as the media have had parallel tallying centers.
But you cannot have a parallel tallying center and announce results. That is the role of IEBC. As political parties, they have had a role in the coming into office of the current team. And what I must commend Chebukati about is that he's been very open, both to the opposition and to the ruling party. He has been accessible with his commissioners, available to give any information, including the systems and processes being put in place. Now, if there are any issues about the tallying, any issues about the technology, I believe this is the most accessible institution and team. Let them raise these issues with IEBC. Let us all see how we can support IEBC to deliver credible results and credible elections. But we cannot purport to usurp the role of IEBC and we tally and announce the results ourselves. What if you announce different results from IEBC? Will you then go ahead and have a parallel swearing-in ceremony according to your results when IEBC has announced someone else as the winner of that election? You will have a situation like what we had in Ivory Coast. I do not think we want to have that in Kenya. Let us have more faith in our institutions. And I really agree with what Barack Obama once said in Ghana, that what Africa really needs are not strong leaders, but strong institutions.
On election preparedness, do you have an assurance that IEBC is ready and will achieve its timelines?
IEBC is in the same situation as it was in 2012 when I was the Minister for Justice and Constitutional Affairs. We had serious challenges facing IEBC. There were technological challenges, there were logistical challenges, there were legal challenges, and there were time constraints, very similar to the situation we are facing now. The only thing that is different now is that in 2012, all parties gave serious political goodwill and support to IEBC. I remember President Kibaki and Prime Minister Raila Odinga called all of us together with IEBC and all the relevant institutions, and we looked at the challenges and we all supported IEBC. That is how we succeeded in actually successfully holding the first general election under the Constitution. It is because of the overwhelming support IEBC received. Right now, the support we are giving IEBC as political parties, as institutions, as leaders is underwhelming. But I believe so far they've tried their best. So far they have assured us they are ready for this election. And what we want to urge is that let us support them to deliver these elections.
With those challenges that you're talking about, then shouldn't Jubilee, NASA, shouldn't everyone then have their separate tallying centers just to ensure that the exercise at the end of the day is objective and flawless?
If you are in a soccer match and you have a referee and you have faith in that referee, you don't need to carry your own whistle. The linesmen don't have a whistle. There are two of them. There's only one person on the pitch with a whistle, and that is the referee. What we are saying is that we can be both players and referees at the same time. And if we have faith in this referee, and it's a new referee that was actually appointed through a consultative process, through a bipartisan approach, then let us all put faith in this referee and the institution, instead of us carrying our own whistles to be blowing on the side. Because when you have so many whistles blowing, you'll end up actually bring about confusion and undermining the authority of that referee. Let that whistle be given, and it has already been given by our constitution, by the law, to Wanyonyi Chebukati. Let him be the one to carry that whistle, not everybody else. How
to change perception on the IEBC not really carrying out its mandate in terms of reaching the expectations of the electorate, particularly in ensuring that they are confident that the results that are announced at the end of the day are the actual results?
I believe the electoral reforms were put in place, and actually the changes that have been brought about in our electoral system will translate into improved performance, more reliability in the transmission of these results. And the only thing we need to do is have a little bit more faith in this institution and to give them more support to actually deliver. I believe they are capable of delivering a very credible election and results, and let them be allowed to do so. And anyone who is aggrieved really has the options availed to them by the law to challenge those results.
Right, and when we talk about credible results, and when we talk about the IEBC and the fact that the electorate should have a little more faith in the institution, looking back historically, like I had put to you, at the challenges that the IEBC has had, what would be the way forward towards the polls in ensuring that indeed that the system will not be compromised?
I think it is having more transparency, more engagement in terms of all players being involved in the process, and this IEBC has been very, very accessible. I think the only difference, as I've said, is that unlike what happened in 2012-2013, you have parties or players talking at each other instead of key stakeholders talking to each other, talking to IEBC, facing the challenges together and seeing how we can support IEBC deliver. I think that this is what is lacking, the political goodwill. I believe the team we've put in place is credible, is competent, and I've known Wanyonyi Chebukati for a long time. He's one of the top lawyers in this country, and the team we have put in place can deliver if only we had a little bit more faith in our institutions.
I want to move away from that conversation and talk about your presence at a rally in Bomet, where Deputy President William Ruto was. There are a lot of undertones on the 2022 prospects. Why campaign now? Isn't it too early? And indeed, back to the question on you as cabinet secretary is being seen on campaign platforms.
I believe my presence at the rally did not in any way compromise my position as the cabinet secretary. And what message I delivered to the people of Bomet is that we have key Vision 2030 water projects in their region. Amongst them, we have the Itare Dam, we have Bosto Dam, we have Soin Koro Dam. Now, the problem we are facing is that we are facing serious political challenges to all Vision 2030 projects, including Thwake Dam in Makueni, including Mwache Dam in when you look at Kwale, and Sioi Dam. Now, what we want to urge is that for Kenya to realize its Vision 2030, they must allow implementation of these key institutions. And we had a situation, Lillian, where a key leader went to the Kipsigis and said, you do not allow your water to be taken to Nakuru, because water coming from Kericho, predominantly occupied by the Kipsigis, is going to Nakuru, where we have the majority being the Kikuyus. And the minute you bring the two communities into coalition over a project like that, it will not just compromise the project, but it can actually cause conflict, because these are areas and communities that have fought before. So my message then was appealing to the Kipsigis community and the people of Bomet and Kericho not to be drawn into political feuds over Vision 2030 project. Now that is a message as a water minister I must deliver, because unless we implement this Vision 2030 project, we will not be able to realize the vision. So that was my message, and I believe we want to urge Kenyans to ensure we have a peaceful election, and we have every right to go to every corner of the country to preach peace, to preach unity, and to also brief them on what programs the government has in their place, what projects are being implemented in the areas. And that is what I did at that rally.
We're talking to Eugene Wamalwa, Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Water and Irrigation. We're taking a very short break now. We'll be back with more on Citizen Extra.